Launch sequence activated. Accessing.
And welcome. We are on day 3, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bradford Harris. Welcome to my stream. I'm Tinker Tech EDU, EdTech Tinker on most of your social media channels. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to all of my social media streams. And I am actually super excited that I have this special guest with me today. We've actually been talking back and forth, but before I always do this, but before we get to that, there's the person right there. I just want to let you know that we are again streaming all week. We got a couple more guests coming up, and that's my phone going off. But make sure you're tuning in 6 p.m. Central all this week. As you can see, I have a very special guest here, Deb Fuller. Amazing person. We're going to be talking about game design today. So everybody, please welcome my guest. And actually, this is the first time we're actually doing a more deep dive talk because we met face to face. Deb Fuller, welcome to the stream. Yay!
I know, right? First stream.
So,
yep.
Deb, we've had a lot of conversation, and so right now, your share screen is not up quite yet, so don't worry about that yet. We're gonna go through all of that. We're gonna go through all that in just a moment. But let's hear about your background. How did you get to be the Deb Fuller that I know?
Oh, wow.
The amazing Deb Fuller that I know. Tell us a bit about
yourself. We have
yourself.
An hour, right? You know, right?
Now we're known to talk. We talk quite a bit,
but way too much.
We talk way too much, but we gotta condense it down to an hour. But let people know about you. I want people to know about the great Deb Fuller.
All right. Well, life is a journey, not a guided tour, right? So I'm a game-based learning designer. That's kind of my passion, is developing educational games. I really like the creative process. I really like content development. I'm one of the weirdo people who actually likes writing game design documents and really thinking through that process. And I think that's my strength in a team, especially working with programmers. They can go off and program and do their thing. And I'm the person who, takes that education content, talks to the subject matter experts, or looks at what the standards are that the game is trying to teach or convey, reinforce, and, make it into map those to game mechanics and make it into a game. And I do everything. I do analog games, so, role-playing games, traditional tabletop role-playing games, board games, solo games, online games. I'm working on Minecraft right now. So Minecraft keeps finding its way to me, and I'm like, fine, embrace the Minecraft.
I'll just deal with it.
I know, right? And I'll be honest, I didn't play it until I got a project a couple years ago, or was it last year? Last year. But I'm like, it's a game, right? I knew how the game worked. I could play with it a bit. Minecraft education. So, a good game is a good game. It's like good writing. And I've played since I was a kid. I was the kid who saved up babysitting money and birthday money, and allowance to buy D&D books, original D&D books, not 3rd or 4th edition. We started out with basic, playing with my friends on the weekend, playing in college, and looking at different role-playing systems and a lot of, and then my dad and I really liked online. Back then they weren't online because online was 300 baud modems, and that's you know
Right.
yeah. So, but I actually played actually. Well, I did play D&D online. We had like play by email. Play by mail has been around forever too.
Yep.
But my dad and I like played Myst and Seventh Guest and other like puzzle type games. We really liked it. Or like the ASCII games. If you remember Zork,
Yep.
you're like it's going around the ASCII, and that's like they were good games because they were good. Not because they were designed really, really well. And it's something like I remember Ultima, again, when it was an ASCII game, it was a real, it played it on my Apple IIe. And, now it's, this fully rendered everything. And, I think that's why, some of these, you've got these legacy games like Zelda or Mario and stuff, they started out, on 64, Nintendo 64s or Ataris, depending on, how far back you go.
Right.
And so that's, you just learn. I mean, that's in live action too. And so I think that's, the key to being a good game designer is you're a gamer and you're, like being a good writer. They're voracious readers too. They read everything and they read stuff that's outside of their comfort zone and just to get into that. So that's how I did it, and then went into education, went into teaching, classroom teaching, always did games with my kids. If I could make something to a game, I did. And this is like the 90s before, games were a thing.
Before what it is
And
now.
well, yeah, what it is now, everybody's like using gamification and gaming, and it's like, oh, and it's like, there's a buzzword, and it's like, do you really mean gamification, or do you really mean game-based learning?
Mhm.
Like you hear people use those words, like, well, that's actually, this, and I don't want to be pedantic, but yeah, that everybody wants to be they want the next Duolingo or the next Oregon Trail or the next, whatever. And it's really good. I mean, yeah, the research, there's plenty of research out there, but to do a really well designed game that's solid, that's just not another we would call a reskin of number munchers or Pac-Man or something, Trivial Pursuit. And it does take time and some thought in churning through it, but then you get a really good product that's replayable that people love to play. My big example is Where in the World is Carmen San Diego, which again, that's dating myself, and probably, if you recognize it, you're probably right there with us. But it was fun, and it spawned a TV game show and a board game, and I think they're bringing it. I saw an article recently that they're bringing it back, so I'm
Yeah, it's
just
like
like,
on
oh,
Netflix. It's everywhere. I just thought about that before we got on the stream today, like how a good design can translate into different mediums, and it all starts with that one design. So it may start off in a game, no matter if it's tabletop or digital, analog, whatever. But then that core piece is that design. Where did it start off
right,
in the very beginning? And that's where it's like, okay, now we're gonna spawn it off into all these different mediums. And I love the fact that you said a good game is a good game and is the same as where it's like good literature and good design, that it all comes together. And I didn't expect for you to even say that, but it all makes sense. Think about like those good games that are really out there that started with the design process that have spawned off into different mediums. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have a good design to be in literature, in tabletop, and then movies and all those kind of things. But a really good game is going to engage in some of those processes like you're talking about. And I will say when I we talked digitally on the side and all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't until I met you face to face in Canada and I was like, okay, I need to change my way of thinking when it comes to design. Of course, I don't consider myself a designer in that way. I have little bitty tools here and there, but like when we started talking face to face, I was like, okay, this is where we need to start thinking in our classrooms of what the design process really is when it comes to game game design. And I say game design because we have to be careful on how we say it. Because you even told me that, like, okay, don't just say video game design. There, we have to account for the analog, the tabletop. All those things are still the design process. And I was like, wow. And so when I came back home I was like, my whole process of gaming is totally different. It was always there, but then like you uncovered a different surface, and I'm like, okay, I need to change my way of thinking when it comes to the design process of how I want to maybe create a game or plan an event like this. And think like your design process was had got me just changing my whole way of just like how to approach things. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, and I think it's also being the more things you can be exposed to, the better, the more you're open to, oh, I didn't consider that before. And that's again, like in game design, my real passion is analog games, but again, this process kind of, carries over to digital games as well and online, and just seeing the creativity and the interest, what people can do. Like every year there's the one page game jam where you have to create a game on one page, one sheet of paper. It can be front and back, and you can have like a character sheet or something that's a supplement, but the main rules is on one sheet of paper. And that's just to see the creativity of people, of different, there's game systems, that people they'll say they hack them, like Lasers and Feelings, or um Princess with a Cursed Sword. So you can kind of follow that format. And those, can be really creative, and it gives you kind of a base. But then there's people like every year they come up with just amazing creative things. And like two of my favorites out of this year is I don't speak French, but they do.
Mhm.
And it's a game about you're having a conversation with your um, ventriloquist dummy, like you have a puppet, and you have to, and they're translating a conversation for you. I don't speak French, but they do. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's just such a amazing, incredible, wacky game. And then the other one I really liked out of this one was Caveat Emptor, which is you're playing a demon that's selling cursed items to people, and you have to make your quota. So you're creating cursed items, like, they're coming and say, I want to be a great poet. And they're like, okay. And so you have to give them an item that will help them be a great poet, like, a quill, that writes wonderful poetry. But
Oh
of
my
course,
god.
you're a demon, and there's a catch. Like, it writes really great poetry, but you'll never sell it, or you won't be famous until after you die, or something. So it's the process of, okay, how do you fulfill this person's wish, and then how can you curse it to make it, to fulfill your demon quota. And
That's so
again,
hilarious.
I know, it was just like, it was fun, just fun. It's like, oh, whimsical games, and just to see stuff like that. And then again, like I started playing Lego Fortnite because it was out and everybody was talking about it. And I mean, I had to play regular Fortnite, but I actually was like, oh, I really enjoy Lego Fortnite. This is a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not like a rabbit, a power player and stuff, but I played with educators, and it was really great just again seeing, we had a chat going, and so we talked about, as we were like trotting around trying to find these things and not dying. Oh, hey, this would be great for using kids to do this, or you could have kids, set up, calculate how many resources they need to build whatever they want to build, or, the town square, or,
Mhm.
set up trade routes, or, one lady was really cool. She was doing like a nursing home, and that was one of like a care center. How can you use Lego Fortnite to have people collaboratively work and build, a nursing center? I'm like, would have never thought of stuff like that.
Right.
But it's really amazing to see that creativity, and what you can do with things.
And
Um,
and that's all under just a gaming concept. And that's what I think I want people to hear. Like, when we I think when we think of games, we think of that, no matter if it's video games, board games, tabletop games, we see that end result. And we see that, oh, people are having fun, they're having a good time, they're, drinking Coke or doing whatever. They're just having fun. But I am more fascinated now, I guess because that's the educator in me now. How did you get all the way up to where now you're having the fun in the process? And even in that process, what is your brain thinking? That's why sometimes I don't play as much, because I'm the educator in the room, and I'm thinking, my brain is thinking totally different things instead of just, oh, I'm having fun. I'm still having fun, but I'm the educator in the room, and I'm thinking my mind is thinking of the design process of how we got to this point. And so those are the things that I want people um, in the stream or when they see this later to understand that there's always a design process to get to this point and how this even leads to different careers and jobs and all those kind of things. Because, like I said, we always see the end result. We see the relax and people kicking back and having a good time, but the thought process of getting there and why things are the way they are when it comes to a game is so important. And that actually leads me to my first question for you, for in your mind, in your
Okay.
mind. So, in Deb's gospel, um, in any game for you, what do you think the key elements of a well designed game are?
Oh wow, that's again another dissertation. It depends on the game. I mean, it, it's got to connect with the player some way. I mean, like the mechanics have to work, and I think that's you talk about well-designed game, and then you get into things like player, what my definition of a well-designed game is different than somebody else's. Because there's like, what does the player want to do in the game? And you get into like the player archetype or, like different player personality types, or 8 types of fun. Bartles is another guy that characterizes, what motivates a player to play. So like I might like one of my favorite games is Stardew Valley, which is technically, I guess, a sandbox game, sort of farming. It's labeled as farming, but it's a little bit of everything. And it kind of started the 8-bit pixel craze. And so the premise is you have a farm, you've inherited your grandfather's farm and you have to clear it and start planting crops and on that. So that's part of it. So there's lots of people who like the farming and you can design, so you can like put your little, pathways down and stuff and decorate your house. And then there's a town with townspeople and you can talk to them and be friends with them. So there's kind of a social aspect. There's a mine. You could go down and mine and get resources and fight little monsters and things. So, that's another part of the game. And there's quests, people ask you to do things and you level up in quests and stuff. And in different parts of the map you can unlock. So there's, to me, that's a kind of a perfect game because there's something for everybody. But if you're somebody who really likes more of a story driven, a game, Baldur's Gate, that series is amazing because it tells that there's an overarching story, or even something like Zelda. And that, and again, I'm an old school gamer, so I hear RPG and I think D&D or Call of Cthulhu or Shadowrun or one of those, and that's now become TTRPG, tabletop role playing game, because now everything RPG is now video game, online. But so I think, yeah, it's got to be. I guess a well designed game is like first the mechanics just have to work. A game where the mechanics don't work is no fun. Um, and if you're supposed to like swing a sword and hit a monster, you swing a sword, you hit a monster. And there's a it's a logic. You don't swing a sword and the monster, unless monster disappears, or you don't, it doesn't do anything. It's like, well, wait a minute. Or you farm, I plant crops. You've got to grow crops, and
Right.
unless there's a reason. And so and not be glitchy. And that's kind of one of my pet peeves these days, because I found like a lot of games are shipping and they're kind of in beta, like in a couple, there's a couple of games that I was waiting for a long time, like it's coming. And I'm like, this is awesome. And they're from game designers they're like, I like their other games. But it's like, it's the first download was super buggy, and we're just like, we get on the Discord and we're like, this is a bug, this is a bug. And it's like, I'm not your bug smasher, and I understand that all games are going to have bugs, and that's why they have releases and stuff like that. But it just seems like now there's so many games they're being shipped that, I mean, like, it might work really great on PC, but then your Nintendo console is going to be buggy, or it's really good, but there's one game I could play on my phone, and it works great, but it's tiny. I got old eyes now, but the iPad version my iPad crashes, and I'm like, that's frustrating because I would like to play it on my iPad. It's bigger, it's prettier, it's I have to put on my super smart reading glasses, but so I think that's the other thing is it's got to be, so it's got to be well designed. It's got to, it's got to be done, not buggy. It's, stuff like that just frustrates the player. It's like playing, like a tabletop game. You don't have all the pieces, or you have to like find, oh, we need 30 tokens and we have 20 in the box. Let me go scrounge pennies or extra dice or, kibble. that I can use as tokens. That's frustrating and no fun. And then, either the mechanics have to be like, I don't know. It's again like people like Flappy Bird, and all of Flappy Bird was you have this little bird and you're navigating it through whatever little columns, and it's the simplest, easiest little game to program. In fact, if you do like, a Unity programming course, that's like they give you the Flappy Bird. Here's a Flappy Bird clone. It teaches you how to program and put all the assets in because it's very simple mechanic wise. But that was like super addictive, and people were like buying. They took it off the market. I forget why, but you had people buying cell phones that had it installed, that were disconnected from the web or whatever, so they could just play Flappy Bird. And you're just like, okay, what's the appeal of Flappy Bird? But I guess it's just it's challenging and it's endless and it's cute, and that. But like I would say, Monopoly is a horrible game. People are like, but we love Monopoly. It's like, well, do you really like playing Monopoly, or do you like playing with your friends or your family? Is it the experience of playing a game and the social experience what makes the game good? Because design-wise, it's a horrible game because somebody,
really,
because
you're saying a controversial comment there.
Oh, I will fight you. Come at me. Yeah, no, because okay, so first of all, the original game was developed by a Quaker lady, I forget her name, in the early 1900s, to teach people why housing monopolies were bad. Because think about it, early 1900s, you've got tenement slums, and too many people, crowded into buildings and whatever, horrible, landlord monopolies. So she created it. It was originally called a landlord's game, and it was so that one person could get control of all the properties and run up the rent. And that was because Quakers are fair price. They're want to be non-discriminatory. They invented price tags literally so that you couldn't price gouge people. Yes, then you can thank Quakers for price tags on that, but not oatmeal. That was a marketing campaign. Anyway, but so the basic premise, and the game got very popular because they're like, that's why our rent is so high, because the same millionaire owns the entire city or whatnot. And then she got bought out by Parker Brothers, and they turned it into Monopoly, and I guess changed the mechanics a little bit so that it was a little bit more even, but it's still not. I mean, it's like a lot of it's luck. Roll the dice. We call it roll the dice, move your mice. And eventually somebody gets, monopoly of the the properties and runs up the rent, and the game lasted long. I mean, it lasts. I don't, people are like, oh, we finished games of Monopoly. I'm like, do you really? Or do you just say, let somebody run away? And everybody has house rules too. That's the other thing. I don't think anybody plays it straight out of the box. Everybody has like some house rules or modifications that they have to make the game more fair. Yeah. So.
Well, let me switch gears to that real quick. So the elements that you said, because I'm dating myself because I haven't been in the classroom in a few years, but like games like Oregon Trail, very 8-bit, green. At least the one I looked at was green at the time. I'm sure it's developed way back then, but I remember that being an event. Now, for those brand new teachers who are in like their 30s and 20s, right? I don't think you even experienced this before, but to get up and transport a whole entire class into another room that was the computer room. I don't know if you did that, but that was number one. That was another experience because you were no longer in the room anymore, and you were playing. You were playing the game. It didn't matter because you weren't in class anymore. Let's just put that out there. So the experience changed. You physically changed the environment, or you physically changed what you were doing that day. You were still in school, but then also you got to play on a device, and you were reading and you were learning things. But then also at the same time, you could bring that back into the classroom and have conversation. And it was so simple. So how can, with what I just said there, how can educators apply those elements to engage students in learning? So like, yeah, Oregon Trail is what is popular. But like there's other games that are new and exciting that maybe some teachers don't know about, but how can we apply those elements? Because now we have Chromebooks, we have tablets, so nobody is being transported anywhere. They're already in the classroom. So with all of the elements that I just talked about and the elements that you talked about, how can now teachers apply that, even if they don't know the game at all? I know I said a mouthful there.
Get that. Well, teachers, yeah. I think that's, being selective with your games and finding something that resonates with your students too. And again, every class is different. And I think that's one of the big things about Minecraft is that it provides that it transports you, you know, without going to, it's doing the transporting for you, right? Yeah, and I do remember like going to the library and signing up for library time and playing Oregon Trail and hitting the space bar and trying to hit the buffalo. Now the new Oregon Trail is on iPad. It's really amazing. And it's the same thing, but full color. You've got a lot more mechanics in it, and they added in lots of history. They took out a lot of the problematic things with Native Americans, so their storyline is more accurate, and I think they actually worked with tribes to get them, accurate representations on that. And obviously more diverse too. You still die of dysentery, but there's a lots of other things you die from too. But yeah, the game's like, I think that's what, the kids can go and they can play. And so like I describe Minecraft as Legos, online Legos. And now you have Lego Fortnite, and that's a lot of fun too. And it's whimsical, but a lot of the art in that is just amazing. And I just like walking around, like the caves are all really pretty and they glow and they have neat things. And
Yeah.
there's a whole tribe of banana people that I love, the Peelies. I love the Peelies.
And here's the funny thing with the old school Oregon Trail in Minecraft, it's the same thing. It's to a degree the same thing. I would also argue that I was still transported, and I had to read, obviously. Imagine that green 8-bit. It wasn't doing much like a Minecraft, but there were still elements where like I felt like I was still in that space. And then Minecraft, shameless plug to both of these games, but I was still taken to that next level. So both of them had that. I feel like both of them have some really simple elements to help me go to that next level. I didn't have to do much. And that reminds me, like even with JP Larios P, he said it last night. Keep it simple, or keep it simple, stupid. Like it doesn't have to be elaborate. Something that's very simple can transport you into a different world and provide that conversation. So both of those games are Oregon Trail back in the day, even though yes, there were some problematic things there. It was still a way for us to transport and learn about the history and learn what was going on, and we were involved. And then years later, you have Minecraft, where you're still in the world, but you could play the game, but I just want to walk around and see what's going on, and create maybe an Oregon Trail in there. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's again, Minecraft is another one of these kind of sandboxy games. Lego Fortnite, or I haven't played straight Fortnite, but again, Lego Fortnite. And then your game kind of player are the reasons why people play. They like to socialize, so you can be social with those games. You can get online, play with your friends. You can play in a classroom. You can play in teams. That's a whole esport demo. And that's the first time I've seen live esports. And those girls, so background context, Bradford and I were both in Toronto at the Serious Play Conference. Shameless plug. Awesome. Everybody needs to go. There's an esports demo with the elementary school girls teams, Girls Who Game. And those little kids are phenomenal. I mean, they weren't that little, but, I guess they were about 10, 11. They had like teams of, what, they were middle school? Okay, I thought they were like fifth graders.
Okay, maybe late elementary, middle school, maybe?
Late middle elementary. Yeah, they were like 10, 11, 12. So, and two teams of 6, and they had like a collaborative challenge where they all worked together, both teams, and then they had a separate challenge for each. Where they had the same challenge, but they were working. Each team was attacking it differently, and seeing just the creativity of those kids, and that's what they said. Yeah, at this level, they're stressing teamwork and cooperation and problem solving, and so that's a huge reason to get into that. You've got people who like to collect. I tend to be a collector. What's all the that's where you get badges. Like, can you get all the badges? Can you get all the every little element? Can you collect all the unlock all the seeds or whatever building materials? You've got people who like to level up. They like to rise in the ranks. There's people who they're kind of called what's the word? Not distractors. Disruptors.
Yeah.
There's something. One of the archetypes is dress, and there's the people who like to find like, oh, can I break the game? Can I find the loopholes? And so to do, they're not they're not necessarily malevolent, they're just mischievous. And so it's like, your little kids, you always have that one kid in the class. It's like, but you didn't say that, they're kind of those types of kids. But they're looking around. So that's why you hide things in the game for them to find,
Mm-hmm.
and Easter, they're called Easter eggs. So, just hide Easter eggs. So if you, or, hidden badges. So if they know, oh, I can get these 10 badges, but then oh, here's a surprise badge. They like that type of things. And then there's people who just like, who like combat, they just, you know, brute force challenges. And I'm like, okay, have something they can brute force on that. And again, if you're designing for education, unless you're, talking about, I don't know, Roman army maneuvers versus, you're trying to show that or whatever, it's like, how effective were Hannibal's elephants? Well, let's play Rome Total War and see how, get your elephants over the Alps. But otherwise, yeah, you kind of want to not, you want to have more cooperative type games.
Right.
So again, so you don't have a kid that's like, well, I just got beat up on. You want to, yeah, right, because that's a huge problem in games too. Is so schools, anything educational has to be like you know you have
You
to
gotta
make
dot
sure
every
that
I, cross
students,
every T.
yeah, students can't, it's collaborative. They can't disrupt other kids' work. Obviously, if they're all working on teams or if they're working online, you can't control what they say. But you set up ground rules. Hey, this is like any school project. We're gonna be, respectful. We're gonna listen to people. We're not gonna raise our voices too loud. Take turns speaking. Same thing when you play a game. And again,
Right.
the games can teach a lot of that too. Oh, you're trying to build something in Minecraft. Well, you all can't build it at once. Where if you do, you build this part of it. Talk about how you're going to build it together, because otherwise it's going to be a pile. Um,
Absolutely. Um,
mhm.
I want to switch gears because I want to talk about like how your design process is the part where we were talking about sharing your screen and looking at
Oh, absolutely.
uh how we get to where we get to. How do we get to a Minecraft? How do we get to an Oregon Trail? Or just to update people, how do we even get to a D&D Dungeons and Dragons or a Call of Duty or whatever game that we're trying to get to? Where do we start? And ladies and gentlemen, the conversation that we had before is yes, this can be used in the game process, but this can also be used for narrative writing or just our planning or the writing process. And I will tell you the work that she has shown me, I was like, oh yes, this definitely needs to be shown because this is definitely a process that people need to see, and this is what people can. This is what people do behind the scenes to get that end product of what you see out on the shelves or what you see out on tabletops or in the digital platform. So, can you share some ideas and thought processes with that?
Yeah. So let's make sure. Let's see if I can share a screen. I'm clicking on it. Mute website. Oh yes, please, absolutely mute website notifications. Join stream. Screen two. Screen
so people can see it.
All right. So this is one of my crusades, right? So I come from, so instructional design background that I've kind of meshed with game design background. And, I've designed plenty of non-educational games, but it's still kind of the same thing, backwards design. What's the end game? How do players win? How do players, what's the kind of purpose of the game? You start with that, right? So in education, if you're doing game-based learning, you have the extra layer of learning goals. And so everything, it's one of the first things I ask, you start with those, what are your learning objectives, whatever you did. So I literally, this is off the top of my head, in the past day or two, I'm actually working on a geology game right now. So geology is the, kind of forefront in my mind. And so the idea is, so create a game to teach middle schoolers the rock cycle, which is one of the, and then you have your objectives. So I start on paper with this, what I call content design worksheet that I created. It's a basic, kind of walks you through, what are your goals? What are your objectives? Kind of, you can make it into a project plan. And it kind of follows that format. But again, this really focuses on the education portion. Because having worked with non-education people, they start, they want to know programming, which is awesome. It's like, what are people going to do in the games? What is this? What is that? But I'm thinking through, okay, well, you can program whatever, this fun little thing, but if it's not scaffolding the objectives properly or not teaching the content in the right order, or you always have to make trade-offs. A lot of times you have to make trade-offs, like in Minecraft too, or if you're using an existing system, you can't always create things exactly, because it's like building a simulation or a model, especially. So this is great for science, because one of the big science overarching concepts is modeling scientific phenomena. And kids do a lot of that in science today, is they're building a model of this and building a model of that.
Right.
And then then they do their experiments. So this just kind of walks you through it. And you think about, okay, so the game, Golden Geology, again, my own, if anybody wants to help me build it, this would be awesome. But and it's the basic goals is to teach the rock, understand. Actually, that's a bad word. Oh, I just broke my own will explain. So yes, never ever use understand. Why? How do you know you understand something? You demonstrate your understanding, right? You say, well, I understand how to speak French. Oh, okay. How do I know this? Oh, I parlez-vous at you, right? So using understand and figure out how is somebody going to demonstrate they know how to do something. So yeah, students will explain the process of the rock cycle and how rocks transform between igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic forms. Again, any geologist out there, literally off the top of my head, I really haven't thought through the content, so please don't correct me. And then how will the game be used by the students? If it's student led, teacher standalone. So I kind of highlighted online, collaborative, solo. Platform to be determined, because it's going to be an original game. We're going to use, I don't know, guys are going to program in Unity, make the magic happen. Then to think through, like, okay, well, so the content is, the interaction, is the main thing is you're going to convert rocks from one form to another through the rock cycle. So there's a little, 3 little rock cycle of how rocks, so they come up out of the ground, they're liquid magma, then they get, and that's an igneous rock, and they get smushed, under pressure. They pile lots of rocks on top of each other, and that's a sedimentary rock. And then you take all that and you smush it and you apply heat to it, and it's a metamorphic rock. And then you can melt that rock again. It becomes, it comes back up, rock cycle.
And this is all this is actually like what teachers already know how to do. Like,
yeah. The basic rock cycle lesson.
The lesson plan, working with the subject matter. You would be working with the subject matter expert anyway. So this is the part that this is the begin. This is the excuse me, I hit my mic. This is the beginning stage of here's how we're going to lay this out. So, and again, as you can see, this is on a Google Doc or a Microsoft document.
Absolutely.
You're not doing anything fancy yet. In fact,
right.
As an instructional designer, that may not even be your role to do that part yet. You're just doing the layout part.
Right. And I even kind of got ahead of myself here too, because like the main thing I want students to be able to do in this game is to get a rock sample, and figure out like where, go mine or quarry these rocks appropriately in its appropriate space, and then take the rock and somehow change it to another type of rock. So that's your basic. It's easy. It's a, so then you get to, okay, well, that's the basic content. So I know, igneous goes this, blah, 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 this cycle. And then you decide, well, how do we make a game out of this? Where can we set it? And then you can pretty much set it anywhere, right? Or, and that's why I talk about, I think, oh, it would be fun, golems or rock or clay creatures. And what if you're working with them and they're helping you, they want to make more golems or they want to make structures. And so you have to go get the rock and give it to them, and they'll give you orders, and you can, and say, hey, we want to make another fire golem because we need somebody to go work on the volcano or whatever. And he's like, okay, well, I need, igneous rock for that. And that's, and then you have to, but golems are kind of, they're not too smart. They're kind of like robots. And, you just say, okay, here's your rock sample. What do I do with it? Well, I need a sedimentary rock, because I need sandstone to build a temple, or sandstone to build, a stone house. So you need to,
Right.
Or you need whatever.
So that's a lesson in the Google Doc. Where would you transfer it to? Because I see you got some other tabs up there.
Oh, yeah, all my little tabs. So here, again, tools. I mean, all right. Oh, I should have done this. Here. Yeah, like I showed you yesterday. Depending on what, there you go. So it's the old. Do I have it? Watch on now? I can't find it. Like I have so many notebooks around here, and that's my other thing is notebooks. Depending on what I'm designing or working on, I sit there and go through stuff like that. Of course, it's not the one. Did I not grab the one that has sticky notes all in it? And I designed my sticky note, so I'm kind of old school like that. But then, it's not the oops. Notebook number 2. I told you I've got notebooks. Oh, you laugh. I have my steno pad with all my work notes on it. I think over here, I don't have any of my other notebooks because I took them on vacation with me. So normally I have them around because if I have an idea, I have to write it down.
Right.
There we go. Is this it? Yay. So here's a book chapter I started to lay out. I wrote a few years ago. And it's, so this kind of format, I call it a brain dump, brainstorming, brain dump. Anybody who's ever done any meeting facilitation, you have, the same thing. Here's your easel pads all around the room or your whiteboards, start writing stuff up there, and then you can start moving stuff around, put it in the parking lot. It's a good idea, but not right now. I color code them. And then, I've even done that with course design too. Like this is, there you go, more colorful. Like I cut them apart. And oh, there it goes. Hello there. I cut them apart depending on what type of idea it is. And yeah, like blue is I don't even know what blue is anymore. But first sessions. So you just I go overboard with them, and I literally have piles and piles of different colors and shapes of sticky notes. But you can do that online too.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. And as you're transferring to the online tab to show, you with I'm gonna say designers, and I don't mean to lump all of them into that one category, but a lot of times we think people see, or we're just gonna jump into the digital space and just design something, and then that's when the game comes out. But what you just described, number one, is I can plan this out in a Google Doc, get my thoughts down, get the lesson plan out, which is what educators already know how to do. People already know how to kind of plan stuff out on a doc or on a piece of paper. Add the sticky notes, to express the ideas if they want to write stuff down. That's the simple part. That's step one. So there's no learning curve there. We haven't, done coding or anything like that to start a game. Where does now, see, you already brought up, this is the part that I'm really excited about. But the explain the next step if you were using Twine.
All right. So this is another online tool. A lot of people use it for online interactive storytelling, interactive fiction, which is really cool. I've got an example of that in a minute. But basically, so it's twinery.org or whatever, and it's kind of a flow chart with some programming. And you start out with a story, and you can move this. There you go. It's all connected. And this is just a sample, so you can see it's all linked. Oops.
Now, when you say programming, I know that gets a lot of people scared. Like, oh my god, programming! What do I have to start knowing Java? Do I have to start learning the HTML? Do I have to start learning CSS? Like, when you say
Right. So
programming,
it's its own programming. It's its own Twine language. And they've got a couple versions of it. Sugar Cube and Snowman, I think, is whatever. But you can just, I mean, if I can program it, you can program it because I am literally the world's worst programmer. And it's in the teaching pigs to sing category. Yes, you can. I've tried to learn programming. It's like, oh, I'm with all the geek kids. I really should learn geek stuff, right?
mhm.
Programming, and just never. It just wasn't my thing. But I understand enough of it where I can tell, I can talk to programmers and say, okay, I want this, this, and this. Can you do that? Or how can you do it? And understand that, yes, they have limitations and whatever. And, and I'm very sympathetic when it's like, no, like databases. Everyone's like, can you just do that? I'm like, technically, no, databases are just numbers, but, cells and whatever, but it doesn't always work that way. Anyway, so what this does is, so you start out a thing in Twine, called a story, and it's each one of these little blocks will open up, and these little things here are links, which shows you they link off to different things. um, and this has like the little exclamation point in front of it, so you can put notes. So anything in code that has an exclamation point in front of it is just a note. It's not part of the code, but it's really good if you're like working collaboratively. You can say, this is you can label parts of your code, like this is the graphic background, this is the whatever, mechanic and stuff. And they do, good coders will do that. um, and it's text, it's all basic text and stuff on that, and you can see like all these little brackety things. A page with basic formatting is somewhere around here. Page of the background, page of sound. So all these little things around here are all linked, and they link off of that. So it's very, very simple, and you can rename it if you want to rename it, and then you can test it. So when you're kind of laying out like, how does this, especially if, where are my options? Um, this is all on one page, which is kind of neat. Um, and it goes, you can put headers,
Is that the
and you
result?
can
Is that the
links.
result of the planning? That's what it's going to come out and look like, or no?
Yeah, if you do that. So this is just, this is like the sample project to show you what it can do. You can get kind of fancy and do code in it. Is that, and this is, yeah, it's another, that's just the same thing. So this is to show you, like, if you really know what you're doing and you've got graphic stuff,
Mhm.
this is a game made in Twine. Um and it's a little interactive story, and it actually has, I couldn't get the audio to work, but
That's fine.
um
No worries.
so this story, and so you've got these underlined, and I like that this is kind of where the creativity is. So instead of having just links, do you want to go left or right, they're actually embedded in the um and so, oh, what you clicked in the middle of the paragraph. So if you're brave enough to hear it, this. So, and then you have options. Are you brave like a storm, a bear, or a sailor? What are you brave like?
And ladies and gentlemen, this is what I. So when Deb was explaining this to me, I mean, I've heard of Twine here and there, but I just didn't think about it in this way that she was explaining it to me. I want you guys to take a look at it as like the narrative writing, the literature. I was floored. Like, okay, when you saw the chart, yeah, that seemed like wow, that's a lot. And this is coming from me. It really isn't. You're sitting there, you have to do the thought process and plan it out. Look at where she went to from the Google Docs to the chart to this. This looks like regular just literature. It's not, it's not an Oregon Trail. It's not even a Fortnite. It's not even a Call of Duty. This is literature. It's still in that game based format to where I'm doing some narrative reading and I'm making my choices. This is another concept. So when she showed me this, I was amazed. And yes, you can put some audio in there to add some kind of ambiance to
Yeah.
it, but this is a great way to bring your students or anybody into another type of writing process. And this also reminds me of when you're asking students,
Hmm.
to do a project. Here's another way that they can present a project if they know, like, you don't have to know necessarily how to do Twine. Maybe they know how to do Twine and they can present it in this way, where the end result is a project like this, where you're following your rubric. They hit these marks where I need to see these things, but they've created this game element that can be shared, across the country or across the world or just with the classroom. So again,
Yeah.
I'm getting giddy. I was so giddy when she showed me. I'm like, oh my god, this is it's another way to plan and put it out there. And again, I think there is some learning to it, but as you sit and really tinker it out, no pun intended, um, you really do enjoy it. I really liked it.
Yeah, so we could go through this so that's just to show you in product, and teachers do use this, especially college professors use it for creative writing, and it really, and that's, I guess, another element of games is the writing is very good, and even things like The Last of Us, critically acclaimed for the storyline and the writing, very human characters, same things like, was it What Happened to Edith Finch, another pretty, it's a basic puzzle game. You're walking and you click on things and you're trying to unravel this mystery of this person's childhood home, but the writing in it is phenomenal. So that's shameless plug for narrative writers out there. And you can do fun, oh, that's a fun game mechanic, like Overcooked is a fun cooking game. It's a you've got, and there's some fun mechanics in there too, and that's why people like it, because it's whimsical and it's fun and there's not a lot of writing to it. But then, like I said, the flip side is you get drawn into the story and this narrative. So this is to just kind of show you how easy it is, because I am, like I said, the world's worst programmer, and so you can, whatever you type in is type. So uh, you can say, whoops, I have my caps lock on. Uh, Of course, now everything sounds really good in my head, and I can't type it out. So you can start out. Here are the columns. Nice to meet you. What kind of rock do you need? So, and again, thinking about it. So the only thing you have to do is brackets. And you can say igneous. And as soon as you do that, see, so that's a link. And that just created the new page. Yeah, so you don't have to do that. Oops, do this too.
Okay, so you don't have to create are you creating the bracket part, or is the bracket already popped? You have to at least...
I'm just double tapping the bracket. And you can use you can put in the actual code. I think they up here, but it's just brackets. It literally is brackets. And there's other things. Again, you can put in CSS. You can put in images.
But it's not required. You don't have to be that fancy quite yet. You don't need to.
No. And then so now I've just created. Okay, so we've just created 3 rocks. So there's and also, if you notice, okay, so that created links to the three whatever, or 3 pages, and you can move them. And then they also, the title too. So whatever the link title is,
look how quick you did that. That was super quick. In my mind, and I see you got the Google Slide tab up there. But I would do this stuff with Google Slides, or even with Google Docs, where you have to link it and you have to find all that stuff. But you did that in less than 30 seconds. And I'm again not dogging Google Slides or any other tool out there, but it does take a couple seconds to kind of link and find what you need to find. But you did that all in that one space. Hey, I just wanted to go here and keep it moving. So that's why I like that, because I think the key with planning is you still want to keep that thought process going. And so some of the troubles I have with some of the other platforms, nothing wrong with it, is that I'm so busy focusing on how to link it that I lose my creative thought process. And what you just did here was, okay, my thought process is still going. I want to choose igneous, whatever. Choose the bracket. Let's keep going. It's already created that other page for me. I love that.
Right, and the nice thing here is you can do non-linear storytelling too, and or non-linear things. So I just linked back to the main page. I can link to and it'll actually, as soon as you start typing it will link to it'll give you the option of going to the other pages, and there you go. So here, so it's so you can see pathways, and you can see you can sort of do that in Google Docs, but it's going to be clunky,
right?
And it'll overload it. So that's the nice thing about this. And one of the things I used this for at a previous job was to simulate a help desk kind of job task, where you come in and you're supposed to, you have your 3 emails with your 3 help desk ticket problems. You have to choose one, and then how to respond. It's and you're giving the person the customer says, hey, this is this, and then you have like one of three choices of, how to respond to the person, and then depending on what you pick, it kind of like a choose your own adventure, but for help deskers. And
I
I
love
couldn't figure
that.
out any way to storyboard that in a linear on a page. It's like I'm gonna have to use a flowchart like Visio. Well, Visio is a pain in the butt. I'm sorry, Visio people out there. I think it's a pain in the butt. And especially if you're doing like Google Slides and stuff, you're trying to get all the little arrows to line up. And I'm so picky that, I need to make it look nice too. But this does it for you. And if something starts to get really clunky, I can move it up here, or, wherever. And so that's like, here, let me just do this in Twine and send it to the programmer who was working in Camtasia, I think, or Articulate, one of the two, and I said, here's my outline, and you just have to follow it. And they were like, oh, that's very easy. And it also outputs into HTML, and then you can also,
When you
where
say,
is
and I don't mean to break your concentration. When you say
no,
it goes into, when you send it to the program to do it to Articulate, what are they actually looking at? They're looking at this right here, and then they're
oh,
doing.
that's just it. No, it doesn't go into Articulate. They were just using it as a storyboard. So instead of trying to follow a linear, pages and pages of, if
A Google Doc, so to
Google
speak.
Docs or something, they could just literally click around and it showed them all the interactions. Because like I had, like one of the things
Okay.
I had was like, the help desk notes, like all help desk programs have, I forget what it's called, but it's like a notes thing where you can say, oh, person has trouble with email, and it walks you through especially if you're first year, it's like, oh, okay, we'll check X, Y, and Z. Have you restarted your computer? Have you blah, 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 and like when I used to work, I was a VAX opera in college. So again, that also dates me. I, very quickly learned when people came in as I can't get into my email, translates into I've forgotten my password, because that's all they associated. They log online, that's their email, right? And so we'd be like, you can't get into your email. Have you checked this file? Have you checked, so I'm like going through all the things of like, what could it do? Do delete your email doc or your email config file or something, and VAX VMS. So again, like, I'm like, okay, do you see a command prompt? And these are people, that barely use computers because they were, it wasn't 90s,
Right.
and, not everybody had a PC back then. And there's like, what? It's like, what do you see in front of you? See, and a little angle. I'm like, okay, so you're at a command prompt on the VAX terminal. And then I finally just said, come in with your student ID. I will reset your password. That's like, you go through all the things. And I'm sure the help deskers are just like, oh, wait, this is what, that's the note. Somebody says, can't get into email. First check, do they know their password? Can they log in?
But
No, good.
but you're saying something like this is easier for some programmers to see because they can see the pathway. They can see, okay, this is where to
Right.
click, versus something that is just a doc or even a slide like, okay, I want this to click, but they can't really see where that's going. They just see like the quick interaction. Okay.
Right. And then you can also, so if you wanted to make it all look nice, you can put style sheets. I mean, you can actually turn it into a game. And this is good, if you're teaching a game design class, it's like, this is an engine you can use. Twine is really easy. The only thing is not collaborative because it's either on your desktop or I'm using it through the web. So you have to save it. I mean, you could send it to somebody else, and I've done that before, where I've mapped out the whole, this is the game design, and then sent it to somebody to make it look pretty, but you have to download the file. The other neat thing is I'm trying to figure out where it will output. Oh, here, published a file. So it will post, see, this as a text document. So right now I don't have a lot, but this is really useful if you need to like send it to an editor. And so they just, they don't really care about how the game works. They just, you want to make sure nothing's misspelled and whatever. And
Okay.
so that can output that way, or that's the proof. And then you can publish the file too. That'll output to an HTML file. You run it in a browser. Or a TWE is the Twine specific file too. But so that's pretty easy. And there's a little tricks to, if you're using graphics, you have to have it in an image folder like you do any website. But again, if I can do it, you can do it, because I am the world's worst programmer. And there's, so like you can, and this is how it, like right now there's no style sheets. So it just comes out as, blue.
But I love
Okay.
that.
There's no text here.
I love the simplicity of it. We talked about the simplicity of it and how it just comes out as a document that you read, I'm sure you can get really even more fancy with it. But if you're just
Hmm.
looking at, I just want this to be engaged. This is going back to what we were talking about, how like the most simple, graphics or the simple designs can be the most engaging. So I'm getting a student or I'm getting somebody to read this and going, I want to click yes, and it's going to take me to this part, or it's going to take me to this part.
Hmm.
And sometimes you don't need all that extra. Now I love it. I love all that extra, but sometimes the most simplest things
Yeah.
is something like this that can be.
I was trying to close down some of my tabs here, but yeah, like if you go in itch.io, um, there's plenty of really cool Twine games. You type in Twine, and there's lots of
Okay.
interactive fiction there. And there's people do amazing things with it. I mean, they make it do backflips, and because you could like
Itch.io.
time. Yeah, it's like this is um, itch.io.
Okay.
And you've got people do online games. They do any types of they do game jams, all sorts of game jams. There's a lot of free assets there, and
And this is
you know
all from Twine.
no, this is Twine's an actual tag. So if I wanted
Okay.
to do, but if you search for games, if you search for Twine, like Twine games made with Twine, so that right now there's almost 17,000 games made with Twine.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I said, there are some absolutely just amazing things people have done with Twine. Um, and so that's you like people like Unity, or Unreal Engine versus Unity, or can't we get along? Godot, or what people are using, and that's but being able to design something like this, like what Temple of No was what I just showed you. Um, is you can then figure start with Unity pretty quickly because again you know what makes a good game, what you understand, okay, graphics and programming and how that all fits together on that. You
Amazing.
write really well, and that's what makes it fun. And it's just like the simple quirky things that they do with the links. He's funny and says, oh, if you click the story in the middle of the sentence, he's like, excuse me, you're interrupting, which is like, oh, that's really clever, I love that. And again, I grew up with choose your own adventure books, and those were as analog as you can get. Turn to page 42. Oh, I died. And if you're me, you keep your finger in the page, like the page that you started from. So you just flip back, and he's like, let me choose the other one. Let's
Right.
go to page
Right.
49 instead. Oh, okay, good. I can keep going.
Again,
Um,
I just love how simplistic it all is, and it's just at the end of the
mhm.
day, it's a glorified interactive document.
It
I
is
mean,
easy. I mean, you don't have to worry about like exporting big files and whatnot. Um, and So, oh yeah, your phone dies in 20 seconds, which is interesting because that actually was an app at some point where you can only play. There's an app at one point where you can only play when your phone had like 2% left
oh
and you could
wow.
chat with other people and you just never knew when your phone was about to die. It was like, that is a really interesting concept. It's kind of like postcards, whatever not post, is it postcards from the edge where people would write, or no, post secrets. Yeah, where people would write, you know, things.
Would you say that this is a good foundation for like if I had an idea like I don't know, like a Call of Duty or any of these games are out there, like it's a good start to say, hey, I want to do this in Twine. Maybe not go all elaborate, but like here's a start so you can kind of visually see what I'm talking about. It's not going to look like this, but this is kind of the mindset of where we want to go. This is like the rough draft.
Right. Oh, and there's the thing about Twine is there's plenty of documents online, and so there is a, and you can get like this example Twine thing that I showed earlier. Um, is all ah, is all has examples of every type of like how do you double this is how you play home about this project. And it tells you, it walks you through about what all the passage header, all the different variables. I guess this is running in bug mode, but and then there's tons of Twine documentation out there,
Mm.
and that's what I did is I literally cut and pasted code. And when I did my one little Twine game, is like I wanted a different background. I was like, okay, that kind of if you know HTML and CSS, you can do this. And even if you don't, if you know like cut this code from here and plunk it here. Oh, look, background or something. And
Got
it
it.
took me a bit. It was trial and error, but it wasn't as frustrating as looking at the matrix. that just makes my eyes cross. And I'm like, ugh. And I did. I mean, I used to program HTML from scratch because things like Dreamweaver and oh my God, front page, from that still have nightmares about front page. I would watch it change my code. Like I would type something in, and it'd be like, no, you don't really want to type it that way. I'm like, yes. And it would break your page. So I learned to code HTML and Notepad 20 years ago.
Wow.
So again, if you know the kind of the basics of how things are, what tags are, and how it's structured, you're fine. And then it gets to, but then if you're not, that's how code. I don't know. If you want to work with people, Miro is kind of the big board for that. And there's all different types. It's basically your own online whiteboard, and there's so many. This is just a free account too. But there's so many templates that you can start out with and just nothing specifically for game design, but they already have the flow charts out. They already have product roadmaps, Kanbans.
All for
And if you
project, all
do
for project planning.
project, well, if you do, yeah. So here I've always done game design. So, but there's also brainstorming, like design brief, design critique, sprint. Where's the one? And again, here it's like all your like here's a four thing. Where's the one that I wanted? Here's a decent one. Process design flow chart, design sprint, perfection game, blah blah. Blah.
Yeah,
And
you
you don't have to start with that. There's like a UX design project. Where's the design?
And just a disclaimer on Miro, this doesn't turn into like what Twine
no.
does. This is just a thought process sheet or document just to get your stuff out there. So you can still
It's
make
like
those right.
putting this on the computer with people.
Right.
And then you can do and it's like Figma's the other one, and that requires more graphic skill that I have. Oh, maybe it's the design brief. Okay, I'll use that. And again, you can create your own. This just gets you started. But they've got all sorts of fun tools in Miro. In fact, there's I can share a really great article that a guy, yeah, here we go, from Cleverlike wrote about in praise of Miro, about how they use that in their Cleverlike's an educational design company. And so yeah, so this works. So instead of client brand goals, so each one of these you can rewrite, and then you can again sweep in. These already have sticky notes here, but you can make this.
And that's another form of just storyboarding and just presenting your ideas to the teacher or the client or whatever. Again, it's not Twine where all of a sudden it's going to come out something amazing, but you can present it in a way where you can show people's thought process and how this is going to look and how collaborative it can be or whatnot.
Right, and you can take like each part of, you go back to this design document, you can take like task one here, you can, put all this stuff, project overview, task one, interactions, resources, outcome, pedagogy, and that's kind of, again, what I assign, like what's the interaction, what do people need to do this interaction, what's the outcome of this interaction, and what's the pedagogy behind it,
right.
How do you do? So they learn, you see, shut some of this stuff down because I think Firefox is being a hog on this. Mute tab, reload. Can I just close tabs? I'm not gonna do that because I'll probably shut something down. All right, you can go away. Bye, Twine. Bye, Twine. All right, there we go. Is that happier? Shut down itch too, because I do not have a big souped up. Oh, that's I can get to that one too. Oops, I just closed it.
It's okay.
That's what happens. Yeah, and this is my upgrade. It's like I don't have the souped up thing. But anyway, you knew what it looks like. And then so you could do learning objectives and then, and then have objectives. And then post them here. This is, this little sticky note is that's the little sticky note.
Or task or
You can make different colors. That makes me happy. You can make them bigger. Like, oh, I need a bigger sticky note because I've got lots to say. Make it smaller. And then brand, you can go.
I got a friend who loves her sticky notes and who loves her colors.
I know, and it's funny because I don't take notes like that. Like I envy people who take like really pretty notes, like they have doodles and everything, and yeah, that, and then you have like UX, and so everybody who works on this, and then you could even do oops, come on. This is why I'll never be a YouTuber. But
You're okay. You're okay.
inspo, inspo, dang it, inspo. All the cool kids are saying these days. Inspo. Yeah. So you can create other boards too. Character design and whatnot, and then you can um,
And remember,
see all your stuff.
ladies and gentlemen, Amira, you have like only 3 boards that you can work with. You'd have to pay. You have to pay for it.
Right, and
That's the kicker.
yeah, a lot of companies are just company, and that's unfortunately all the mirror boards I have worked on are proprietary. So, but and you can move references, creative direction. So let's say you want to images, of course. All right, let's see. You can copy paste. Which one's this? They're all the same. Can you copy this? So if you've got, hopefully that copied, right? I don't trust it. Copy image. Copy image. And then you can go in and then again, if you've got your inspo board, paste the horse picture there. There you go. So that's really great for collaboration. If you're what are character designs? And again, I learned when my background is actually theater, my undergrad's in theater, and people are like, why do you have a theater degree? It's like, oh, at the time I wanted to do theater, but I decided I'd rather eat. But I did do theater design. Right? I don't know, man. Fame and glory. But I wasn't, again, I was backstage, so I wasn't fame and glory. So it was but I did, concentrated in costume design and history. And we do that. That's how we would design a costume. We'd draw, sketch out our costume sketch, like you see a fashion plate, and then we pin fabric swatches to it. I want, we go through our fabric bins or go to a fabric store and ask for samples and say, we'd have those pinned to the picture and to our rendering, and then we'd also, if we have I want it based on this outfit in this painting or this outfit from here, the style, we'd pin those onto it too. So when we handed that costume sketch to the costume shop and say build this thing that only exists in my mind, you have enough information there, and they say, oh, okay, so you want an A-line skirt, but you want puffy sleeves, and you want it in the sateen, but have this, whatever, brocade on the belt, and okay, but you want to custom dye that, yes, blah, blah, and they can just put all those pieces, parts together, or you can start or it's a fantasy land, so you're pulling, I like My Little Pony here, but I also like Dead Road Redemption. And you see what works and what doesn't. And like my costume design teacher would say, that's a really good design for another play. And that's, kill your darlings. This is a really good way to look at things and go, okay, last part is you can design this, you've got your learning objectives, you've got your design, and you're like, all right, this is gonna be great. They're gonna learn lots of stuff, and you put it in front of the kids, and they figure out like how to blow things up, and you're like, that was not a learning objective. Like I put my chemistry game in front of my little niece who's crazy for Minecraft. I think she was like 12 at the time, and I was like, hey, I have a kid. It's you're the age group. She didn't know the chemistry, but I'm like, here, go play Minecraft. Is like, yeah, go play my Minecraft game. And ignored all the NPCs, ignored the chemistry labs, went straight down to the mine and started mining in the dark. And I'm like, Camille, you can make, you can just make torches, right? And you can see, so you can see. She's like, oh, that's okay.
That's what she's not.
I can see where I'm going.
They're gonna get the game. The game has the set of instructions. This is what you were saying about Monopoly. They're gonna get the game. There's the instructions here, but they're gonna take the game and make their own game out of the game that's already there. That's the purpose of what a game design is. The game is already here,
right.
But what are you gonna do with it? Here's the foundation of the game. Here's some of the parameters. Here's the rules, but make your own game out of it at the same time with these parameters. So.
Right, and I guess that's the other piece again of educational games is they don't exist in a vacuum, and I think that's a big misconception because teachers think of games as fun. Yeah, you can go play the game when you're done with your work, and they don't think of it as a teaching tool, or it's a simple game where they're like playing math games. You kind of play like draw 2 cards and make a 2-digit number out of it, and whoever has the largest number wins the round. Something, okay, it's kind of fun, it's gamey, but it's not really. It's just making it slightly more interactive than circling the
the whole
number on a worksheet.
The whole entire class time can be the game.
Right.
But that goes back to what we talked about earlier, like the whole experience of let's just call it the Oregon Trail experience. Or the Minecraft experience of we're taking the day and we're transporting you to something else. But guess what? You're still learning your math concepts. You're still learning about your history. You're still learning about literacy. You're just learning it in a different space. And we're taking 45 to 90 minutes, and you're having a good time. But we're using it in a different space, and we're taking different elements out of it. And we build this whole design process for you to learn it. And so at the end of the day, and yes, you and I have both seen this happen. When it's time to take that paper test, and they see those questions. And I had to think about this because I've been out of the classroom for so long, and I had to get it back into my brain. When they see that one question, they're thinking of so many things that happen between when they learn that concept, the game. They're thinking of so many things. The game could be the one thing that helped them answer that question. Oh, it's this because I played this.
Right, I did this in the game, or even something interactive too. I mean, and it's also the other thing is again, games don't exist in a vacuum, and it's one thing to say here's like a number munchers or like little arcade, like game. That's really gamification because it's like here, go practice your math problems with this, math game, or your spelling with a spelling game or something, and that's great too. Yeah, that's go practice or whatever. But if you're doing if you wanted to use the the updated Oregon Trail in your westward expansion class, or like my chemistry game that on the Minecraft education site now, that it's like any other lesson. Like you wouldn't just tell kids do this science experiment or read this book and they're like, okay, here they've done it, move on. But there's you prep them. You're just like, hey, we're gonna go. This is the content. You're gonna go over the content or whatever. You're gonna say, this is the you're gonna do the game. So instead of me talking to you, you're gonna play Minecraft and use the Minecraft game. And then you come back. Everybody just oh, so what were you successful at? What was challenging? Did you complete all the tasks? And that's what I would argue. That's the big thing is how do you success at a game? Well, that's the failure, and to me, the defining point between a game and like playful learning, which are both valid, is you have to fail a game. There's a game has a failure. So if you cannot fail, like, oh, I lost, I didn't complete the puzzle, I didn't complete the activities, I had to restart, then it's playful learning, which is still fun, but it's a different mechanic, it's different from, here, go play with the Legos and build a house, to go play with the Legos and build this specific, like a toothpick bridge, that can withstand 15 pounds of pressure or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's writing. So teachers, if you're out there, you're losing games, you really need to have those lesson plans. That's what I write. So yeah, we've got you've got the lesson plans. So then how do you do, follow up on that? How do you access? So it's like, if all your kids are successful, boom, to me, that's the assessment right there. Do you really need to give them a paper test? Or would it be better to do extension activities in the classroom?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's
Deb, we did what we said we weren't gonna do, and, and
I think over an hour.
we talked over because you guys, when me and Deb talk, we talk, we talk, and you gave a lot of wealth of information. And again, like from just talking about the designing process to the extension of the activity of a game, like the game doesn't stop once you turn it off. You have to have those critical discussions or have those conversations about what did you learn, what did you fail at. That's the important part of the game. That's what's going to make people come back and always play the game, no matter if it's a paper game, Oregon Trail, Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever. There's reasons why people come back and play these games because they want to learn from their failure, or they want to level up, so to speak. So, Deb, I really appreciate you, all your knowledge. You have so much knowledge. I love it. I learned so much.
I'm happy to talk. I mean, this is like, to me, this is exciting. Like thinking about how do you design things, how do you work through design things, and there's not. I mean, there probably is, but to me, like all the educational game designers that I know, there's kind of fell into it. There's something like we just like playing games, and
I fell
why
into
don't we
it.
play? Yeah, and like one of the ladies I met at Against Serious Play, she's a game design professor, but she's really a pharmacology prof. I mean, and that's the same thing with the Generation Analog, the Analog Games Conference online that I presented at earlier before Serious Play. Is there are very few people in that conference who are game design professors. They're all like creative writing or business. I mean, and they come from some interesting, the backgrounds and stuff. And they're like, yeah, I teach creative writing and I do game design, or I teach, language. That's there's a bunch of language professors again at Serious Play, who were looking at gamification and language, or game-based learning and language. And they were a lot really cool to talk to. And war gamers, Pigeon, and he does I guess diplomacy and international relations. Sorry, Pigeon, if I got your specialty wrong. Right. But yeah, thinking about kind of like, but then seeing like how it connects to other, again, good game design is good game design.
Absolutely.
And that if you got you just use different mechanics and different mediums. So I know we keep going on and on.
Yeah, but well, stay on. I'm about to switch to my indie piece, but stay on, and we'll definitely chat. I loved everything that you did. Thank you so much for showing your knowledge. And but before we leave from you, where can people contact you? Where can people find you? Where can people get all your information?
There's not a chat, right? You have my LinkedIn, right? My LinkedIn with my link tree.
I think so. Yes. So we can find you on LinkedIn, like just LinkedIn.
Yeah, we'll find you. I guess if you're on Twitch or whatever. I should just put up. I should have thought about that. Where's I have a QR code somewhere if I can.
Are you on Twitch? I don't have your.
I am not on Twitch.
Okay, I don't have your shared screen up. So if
here.
It's just us double talking. But we can find you on LinkedIn, just like LinkedIn.com, like / Deb
Here, I'm bringing it up. So let me share it again. I was
okay.
like, we're done. Here. And I thought I had my link tree on there. Here now.
And what I can do is I can get all that information from you, and I put it in my show notes when I eventually do the edit of this piece. Right now it's all live and stuff, but definitely I'll get all of this I get all this information so people can like, oh, I want to contact them to see what she can provide for me, because again, you have such a vast amount of knowledge. Again, like I said, you changed the way did I freeze? I think I froze. I will send that in the show notes. So I think people can see me frozen live, so that's okay, you guys. It's live. It's not a big deal. But yeah, definitely stay on. If not, we'll chat for like 2 seconds on the